All right, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. Again, this is your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Guys, the left is up to no good, and this is something that's been happening. It's currently happening in the state of Florida, these ballot initiatives, these amendment initiatives, if you will. I think this is a very important topic because we've seen places like Ohio, I believe, I can't recall the other state, where the left will come in, or some of these big players will come in, and they'll use these amendment processes, if you will, in my opinion, to turn red states blue. That's happening right now in the state of Florida. We have 6 amendments that are going to be on the ballot, but I think there are 2 amendments that are very consequential. I want to start with Amendment number 4. Joining me to talk about Amendment 4 and then 3 is none other than John Stemberger. He's the president of Liberty Counsel Action. So, John, thank you so much for joining us on the program. I appreciate it.
Carl, we've known each other for a long time. It's great to be with you, man. I'm so glad about all the success you've had.
Thank you, man. And say, I am glad that you are with Liberty Counsel. They've got a pit bull over there, and I absolutely love that. John Stemberger, I mean, again, like he said, I've known him for a long time. This guy has been in the just in battles like you wouldn't believe for the state of Florida, formerly with Florida Family Policy Council, and now with Liberty Counsel. John, let's go right to Amendment 4. Let me read off as the amendment reads, and the amendment reads, no law, and this is about basically about abortion. All right. So no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health as determined by the patient's health care provider. Okay, so John, that's what the amendment reads. Before you respond to that, let me also throw this in the mix. I've heard many people that are in support of this amendment, ads or whatever, playing on the air that will say, I will hear them say, well, listen, we should leave this in the hands of the voters. Why should the politicians decide? I believe that's a complete and utter trick. We already decided when we elected our politicians. Having said that, John, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so what they don't say, Carl, is what you just said. They never talk about the language. Literally, never talk about how great their language is, what the effect of their amendment is, what legally it's going to do. It's amazing, all this great amendment. You think they'd be talking about what the amendment says and what it does. They do nothing about that. Nowhere in their messaging do they talk about the amendment. We want people to drill down and read the amendment because it's deceptive, it's extreme, it's not what it seems whatsoever. So the first part talks about, we shouldn't restrict, delay, or do anything to abortion before viability. Now that makes it sound like it's some kind of a reasonable regulation on abortion, kind of like Roe versus Wade was in a sense where the state had a compelling interest after viability. Right. But before viability, the woman could have a right to abort her child. The problem with that is the next sentence, or they can have an abortion for any health reason as determined by a health care provider. Well, there's no definitions at all. That's the problem with this amendment. In the medical marijuana amendment that was passed several years ago, there's 4 pages of definitions. Amendment 4 has no definitions whatsoever, Carl.
That is amazing.
They wrote it that way specifically because they want to trick you. They want to know, they want to be very slippery with the language. So what they are talking about is, how extreme Florida's law is. That's all they keep talking about. And they're lying about the nature of Florida's law. For instance, they're saying there's no exceptions for rape and incest. Now, you may have a different view on this. It doesn't matter what your view is. The fact of the matter is the law currently in Florida through 15 weeks has an exception for rape, incest, life of the mother, human trafficking, fetal fatal abnormalities, and for the disruption of any significant bodily function that puts the mother at risk. So those are the exceptions for between 6 to 15 weeks. And they're lying literally. And so one station, actually the St. Petersburg Times, which is now the Tampa Bay Times, they even rated it as mostly false in their fact check.
Really?
Yeah. One station, a CBS affiliate down in Fort Myers, they pulled the ad. They said, we're not going to even add this. And even the Department of Health, who's normally a non-political body, they issued a warning saying this is false information. This is not what the law says. And this could endanger women's health. So clearly they're just lying out of out of both sides of their mouth. The governors need to try to shut them down. They've put it in the courts to try to say these ads are false and misleading. And a liberal federal judge in Tallahassee just said, no, it's free speech. They can do what they want to. And that is the sad case in political speech. It's kind of the wild, wild west. You can say what you want to say, and it all gets kind of rubbed out at the ballot box. So we're here to say, hey, this is a lie. I don't like calling people a liar, Carl. It's just kind of rude, and it doesn't give them the benefit of the doubt. But they're lying here. They really are lying. There are exceptions in the law. The other thing they're saying is that, women won't be able to get miscarriages, right? Because the doctor will say, well, you've miscarried after a certain point in time in your pregnancy. That is baloney. There's no state in the entire country where a doctor will not go in and scrape the remains of a child who's been miscarried. That is not an abortion. That is a different situation. And so it's just a lie for them to have these doctors get on the screen and talk about, mother's dying and bloody and all this stuff. It's just absolutely, it's false and misleading completely.
We have just about 4.5 minutes left in this block here. Again, I'm speaking to John Stemberger. He is the president of Liberty Counsel Action. Let's dig into some of the details. Amendment 4 would make abortion, and actually I'm reading right from Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. Amendment 4 would make abortion a constitutional right in Florida up to birth at any time for any reason, if passed. Your response?
Well, it's any health reason, right?
Okay.
And so the same day that Roe versus Wade was decided, a companion case called Doe versus Bolton was decided. It's a hospital abortion case, and the U.S. Supreme Court was trying to determine what does the word health mean. And they rely upon the World Health Organization, and it's very broad. It can mean emotional issues. It can mean any familiar issues. It has to be complete and utter wholeness of self. So basically, a woman who's pregnant, she's going to have stress. She's going to have mental stress. She's going to have headaches. She's going to have nausea. She's going to have a lot of health issues which can justify an abortion. So the state of pregnancy actually legitimizes aborting any pregnancy. So it's so broad. And then they have healthcare providers. They're always talking, Carl, about, let this be a decision between the woman and the doctor. Well, guess what? They removed the doctor. There's no requirement in the amendment to be a doctor. You can have a healthcare provider approve and greenlight an abortion. And so the problem with this is that there's 4 places in Florida law where healthcare providers define. Only one of them has to do with physicians. And they don't tell you which section of that is. Most healthcare providers are things like massage therapists, dental hygienists. They have all these places that are healthcare providers. What they really want, Carl, is they really want the non-doctor clinic worker inside the clinic approving the abortion. And frankly, they could even, if this passes as a fundamental right, they could even strike down the need to have a doctor. Remember, 55% of all abortions are chemical abortions. So they want nurses, which would be much cheaper than doctors, doing surgical abortions, providing chemical abortions, removing the need to have the doctor involved with prescribing the abortion drug and the poison pill that has to go to the woman and all this stuff. So it would be the wild, wild west. Even laws that basically are interested in the health of the woman and the safety of the woman, like to have an abortion clinic within a certain number of miles of an emergency room, all those could be challenged. Why? Because it restricts abortion. The 24-hour waiting period delays abortion, right? The parental consent law, which requires a minor to get parental consent, that restricts abortion too. So all these laws are subject to being struck down when you create a fundamental right to abortion in your state constitution.
Let's drill down. We just have 2 minutes left in this block here, John. Let's drill down on the parental consent. It says here, if passed, the misleading amendment would nullify Florida's 6-week heartbeat law. You basically explain that, and then it would invalidate the parental consent laws, allowing minors unfettered access to abortion. So a minor could go get an abortion. They could become a girl could become pregnant, wouldn't have to tell their parents, could go ahead and get an abortion, and not necessarily by a healthcare doctor, John, all the way up until birth.
Well, the amendment does talk about parental notification. That's already in the Constitution, but that's different than parental consent.
Okay.
It would strike and remove parental consent. Parental notification is the doctor calling the mother or father and saying, we're about to abort your grandchild, right? That's what it is. Or a certified letter that goes out, and then after that, they do the abortion. So notice is different than consent. Notice is, by the way, this is going to happen, just letting you know, right? And so that's different than consent. Consent is you have to have one parent's permission. Now, you can't get your ears pierced or get an aspirin, but we're going to let a minor girl undergo a major surgical procedure like abortion without her parents' knowledge or consent. It's ridiculous. But that's what the amendment would produce.
Yeah, this is absolutely stunning and amazing to me. And John, I believe that part of this, we only have 30 seconds left in this block. I think this is a way to potentially create make a red state blue. And honestly, I think it's part of the reason why they're bringing illegals into the country, frankly. I mean, we're killing all of our babies. Why not bring illegals in to replace them? It's insane that this is happening right before our eyes. And what's even more shocking is there are a lot of conservatives, Republicans, and or Christians that will be sympathetic to this amendment. Guys, we have to vote no on Amendment 4. John Stemberger is going to stick with me. We're going to be talking about Amendment 3 in the next block. Stay tuned for more. This is the Carl Jackson Show. Make sure you check us out at thecarljacksonshow.com. We'll be back for more. Hey guys, Carl Jackson here for MyPillow. A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. For the first time ever, you can get a standard classic MyPillow for wholesale prices. So it's just for $14.88, but it gets even better. For a limited time, they're offering their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. You can get queen size MyPillows for as low as $18.88. Upgrade to a king for just $1 more. You can get the body pillows for $29.88 and the multi-use MyPillows for just $9.88. Go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L. I don't spell it like the communists, or call 800-858-0263 to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever. That is insane. On top of that, receive free shipping on orders that are over $75. They have never been offered this low before. There are limited quantities at this price. So the limit is 10 items per person. Go to mypillow.com or call 800-858-0263. Don't forget to use the promo code Carl to get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Again, the lowest price ever. All right, welcome back to the program. This is the Carl Jackson Show. And again, we are joined by my guest and friend, John Stemberger, president of Liberty Counsel Action. And we're talking about Amendment 4 and Amendment 3 in Florida. And I believe that these amendments have nationwide implications, because it is my opinion that what the left is trying to do with these amendments are literally turn red states blue. You will make abortion, or Florida, a tourism place for abortion. The same would be true, in my opinion, when it comes to recreational weed or marijuana or what have you. So we're going to get into that as well. But I wanted John, we were talking offline, and I wanted John to explain. I don't even understand, and I'm frustrated with this stuff. I can't lie, John, because I feel like Florida voters, they make their voice heard, and then you get these big players that come in with these amendments. They lie to people. The language is vague. They're completely deceptive. And then, unfortunately, uninformed people vote for these things. And I don't even understand how this process can happen when we have legislators, in my opinion, that should be able to say, no, this isn't going to fly.
Well, the Constitution is what gives us a Republican form of government. It's different than the voting part of our representative democracy. And in Florida, there's 5 ways to amend the Constitution. You have the Citizens Initiative, which is what Amendment 3 and 4 is, where the citizens put petitions on, they put something on the ballot. You have the Legislative Joint Resolution. You have the Constitutional Revision Commission, which meets once every 20 years, which I served on. You have the Budget and Taxation Commission, which meets once every 20 years on the off of the Constitutional Revision Commission. And then you have a Constitutional Convention. Those are the 5 ways. It's never been done before with a Constitutional Convention, but those are the ways you can do it. You'd have to amend the Constitution currently to knock those out, or to change the way you can amend the Constitution.
So it's
what's happening, you're exactly right. George Soros came into Florida and other states, along with Planned Parenthood and along with the ACLU, and they're the ones that are funding with millions of dollars, $27 million, fraudulently collecting petitions. I don't know if you saw this story that just came out. They just filed suit.
I'm glad you're mentioning this. Yeah. Please go ahead.
I mean, so they hired a company out of California, paid per petition gathers. That's a violation. It's literally it's a felony in Florida, a 3rd-degree felony. They've already arrested 4 people, Carl. and they can hire paid petition gatherers, but they have to be by hour. And so they did it per petition. I remember being in the Publix, and this scantily clad woman who literally in a see-through shirt, well endowed, going up to all the men going, hi, hey, support women's rights, support women's rights. They counseled them not to use the word abortion. So it was fraud in the whole thing. Orange County alone, where we're at right now, 32.3% in the audit, 32% were fraudulent. Dead people, invalid people, signatures that were doubles. I mean, it was all this fraud, all these invalid signatures. 32%. That's almost 1 out of every 3 petitions. In Palm Beach, Carl, it was almost 50%. So Amendment 4 at the very get-go, and the lawsuit says even if they win at the ballot box, they're asking the Supreme Court to invalidate the amendment. This is radical because of the fact that they never had the Constitution require a number to get to the number that they needed to actually put the thing on the ballot, according to the Florida Constitution.
So from what I see here, the report noted Amendment 4's petitioners garnered 997,035 votes, which exceeded the minimum required threshold of 891,523 votes. But at least or approximately 12% of those votes or those signatures are suspected to be fraudulent.
That's right, at least, if not more. And it's not votes, it's the petitions that they gather.
Thank you.
Those petitions have to be valid voters. They can't be dead people. You can't sign one more than once. So all that has to go through. And it can't be fake people, right? Which a lot of it were. And a lot of that, what the companies